So, welcome to the Be Better podcast. Here you will find inspiration to be better at your job, with others, of course, and most importantly, with yourself. You will hear new things today, old things, and hopefully experience that moment of clarity that you've been waiting for. So, listen on. Hi, my name is Ashman Martin, and with me today is Anslin Gysman. He was the guest artist at our annual Women's Breakfast and lifted the spirits of more than 1,000 women with his talent. Absolutely amazing. And you may know him from The Voice South Africa Season 3, where he wowed audiences as a top 8 finalists. But beyond the spotlight, Anslin Gysman, also known as Anslin G, is a singer, songwriter, vocal coach, and a vocal producer who carved out a unique space in the South African gospel and contemporary music scene. Anslin, welcome. I must tell you, it's such a privilege to have you with us here today. What you did today on that stage was absolutely phenomenal. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much for having me today. I think it's such an overwhelming experience to get to do this all the time. A lot of us think that it's something that must just happen, and because we are talented, things like opportunities like these should just fall in our laps. But it's honestly a privilege to get to do this. So thank you so much for having me.
Now, I want to dive right into your life right now. I just want to mention this. I recently lost my grandmother. And, you have also spoken about your grandmother's role in shaping your path. What values or lessons have you learned from her that you still use today in your daily life and in your career?
There are so many. Firstly, I'm so sorry. My most heartfelt condolences to you. I think my grandmother's always taught me to keep my feet on the ground. I think I was always a very ambitious young man growing up in a space where there wasn't much, but I had my ambition to hold on to. I spoke at a seminar recently and I said, my delulu is actually my salulu. Delusion saved me in the sense that I was surrounded by nothing, and so I had nothing to benchmark my dreams or aspirations against. But the little bit of hope and the little bit of ambition that I did have was sort of harnessed by my grandmother in her validating my dreams and telling me that they are valid, and telling me that I possess the temperaments to become everything and anything that I set my mind to. So when we speak about the values that she had sort of instilled in me, and what I hold on to is definitely to sort of immerse myself into the concept of humility in every facet of my life, regardless of how massive my life might get, is to always understand who I am at the core of who I am and what I was set out to be, and just to remain kind and generous to everybody around me. And also the one thing that I hold on to forever, and I always encourage other people with it, is the fact that she had taught me to extend grace to myself. We have plans and we have aspirations for ourselves, and not everything will happen in the time that we've sort of orchestrated or planned for it. And she'd always taught me to extend grace to myself so that the landing isn't as hard as I would think it was. But that's some of the values that she's sort of instilled in me, and some things that I keep very, very dear to my heart.
To your heart. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Your album, Evolve, captures your life's, journey. Absolutely amazing. Was there a song that was especially emotional or difficult for you to write, and why?
Yeah, I think the most difficult song on the album is probably Inconvenienced for You. It stemmed from sort of me experiencing, life with God as a higher power, and then losing that and not having anything to draw from. And then I found him again, and I was like, I vowed that I would never allow the pressures of the world and the pressures of society to sort of push me into a direction where he wasn't enough. So, my experience with him, makes me realize he is enough, and I had written that song to make a bold declaration to say that even when it's hard, I'll still proclaim you. Even when the noise is telling me something different, I'll still be bold for you. It was a declaration that regardless of what may come my way and the glitz and the glam and all the great things, nothing will ever be able to separate me from that love, because I know that love, and I also know life without that love. And so regardless of whether his love is unrequited, because we could never be able to reciprocate that same type of love that he's given us. And so making that declaration for me was the moment that freed me in terms of opening up the doors and that sort of thing. I was tested very soon after I'd released that song, because remember, once you release something, there's bound to be an attack there.
Of course.
And then very terrible ordeal happened to me in Johannesburg, where I was almost hijacked and, still kidnapped and whatever. And, in that moment, sitting there on that field, literally destitute, and I didn't know if I was going to make it out alive. The only thing that I was thinking about was, you made a declaration that you'll be inconvenienced for me. Now that I've put you under pressure, now that the heat is up, are you still willing to hold on to the promise that I've given you a long time ago and declare that you will be inconvenienced for me? So, yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. We'll touch on that situation that you mentioned later on, but I want to speak about the fact that you've graced the stages, the local stages with amazing local talent, international talent, and I think I'm not a stalker, but I've seen stuff of yours. And, and one that stood out for me was when you were working with BB Winans. How was that experience for you? What did that teach you? And how did that feel to be part of something so huge and to know that, this is your life?
Yeah. Very overwhelming. Firstly, it was extremely overwhelming. I think when I got the call, in fact, how I auditioned for the role was very unintentionally. There was a conference for worship leaders in Cape Town, and friends of mine called me and said, "Hey, dude, come through. Stanley Brown, who's the musical director for BB Winans, is in the country, and he's going to be there. Maybe we can learn some stuff, connect, network, etc." So I went there, and I was like, I didn't really want to be here. And then there was a room filled with singers, some of the best in Cape Town. And they were musicians, and everybody was there because these are American cats. And so everybody wants to learn from them or sort of steal something that they are teaching in the room, etc. And then they call on Jabari, who is one of the greatest organ players ever. And they now want to do a show and tell, so they're busy speaking about how to sort of build a song and, let the melody guide you, etc. And they ask if there's any singers in the room that would want to attempt it. And so because the moment was so big, because of all the big names in the room, everybody shied away. And so somebody in the room says, "Anslin, please go." And I'm like, "Ugh, not me." And so eventually I walk on stage and I take the mic, and that was the point where they were like, "Yes, sir." And so Stanley comes to me afterwards and says, "I don't care who I bring to South Africa, you are on that gig. Oh, wow. You have a great talent, and we'd love, for you to explore the international stage." And that experience with BB was the most humbling experience, because it not only opened up crazy doors after that, it also exposed me to different circles with people, and subsequently to that BB Winans gig, I was then booked by that same client to open up for Drew Hill when they came to South Africa very recently.
No way.
And so I had some crazy opportunities stem from that, and so it was myself and Zonke who opened up for Drew Hill on their South African leg of the tour. And so those were some of the cool things that stemmed from it. What it also made me realize is that we aren't as appreciated in our own country as, these people have made us to feel. I literally felt like a superstar.
Wow.
And I mean, it was very overwhelming. I was like, I'm not used to the police escorting me. And so the experience holistically was so profound that, I mean, having BB Winans knock on my door saying, "Sir, I'm struggling with my sinuses. Do you perhaps have a Sinucon?" So things like that. So we've also carved out a friendship and sort of a relationship that still continues. And so that's the blessing of being at the right place and at the right time. And I think sometimes we think that an invitation, we'll only receive what is at the end of the invitation when we go to or enter the room. But sometimes all we need is a yes. And I think the fact that I said yes to that invitation already qualified me for the blessing that was going to follow from that. And so, yeah, that's what it was.
As I said to you earlier on, you mentioned briefly about, the armed robbery that took place towards the end of last year. And you shared that on TikTok.
Yeah.
I was actually one of the people who saw that, and it really touched me. But I want to find out from you, how did that affect your music and your faith?
I think in that moment, I didn't really think about anything else besides the fact that if this is where I'm going out, was what I've done on this earth enough? And it brings me to that point in my life now where I'm so intentional about everything I do, every song I sing, every podcast I get to be a part of, everything I release on social media. I always want to know that should my day come for me to leave this earth, that my contribution to the growth of this nation and to the growth of people's spiritual lives, to the growth of their humanity was enough, right? Did it shake my faith? Not at all. In fact, I thought it made it stronger.
Oh, wow.
I sat there and I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to take me out. Like, I am going to be a mess for a very, very long time. And so in that time when that happened like a Thursday evening, Friday morning, I was in Johannesburg at a conference, and on that Friday morning, I was due to fly to Durban to go and preach at an event there. And then after Durban, I was due to come back to Johannesburg to do a corporate event. And then after that, I needed to go and preach at the University of Potchefstroom. So all in the same weekend, right?
Wow.
So I didn't have the luxury of making a decision that I should have made in the carnal. I should have packed my bags and I should have gone home. I had no means of communication. I had no money. I had nothing because everything was gone, right? And so what I did was I went to the airport and flew to Durban. And I said, Lord, if this is you testing me on the fact that I said that I'll be inconvenienced for you, let me show you how I passed this test. Wow. I went to Durban. I preached the infallible gospel. I came back to Johannesburg. Regardless of how hard it was, I did what I needed to do to spread this gospel, which is the mandate on my life. And that has literally opened up it's just been amazing from that time, in terms of God just like reassuring me by opening up more doors and just like reassuring me that everything's going to be okay. And I think the thing that I held onto was I could discern in that moment that the devil was very tactical in terms of trying to take me out. And so I needed to be tactical in terms of my healing, because what God had needed in this time and for this season is a healed vessel to preach this gospel, because I can't be a broken vessel and preach a convoluted gospel. I need to be whole so that I can give people the definition of taste and see that the Lord is good.
Sure.
And so as tactical as the enemy was trying to take me out, I needed to be tactical about my pursuit of healing. And today it's hard. We do what we need to do to get through it. I go to therapy. I make sure that I'm okay. But yeah, it was a crazy time. But in fact, that the Sunday evening I landed, the Monday morning I was in therapy. I was like, there is no way I am sulking about this. This has happened. We are moving.
Yeah. As I mentioned earlier on, I've obviously seen the clip where you spoke about this experience, and looking from the outside in, this must have been a very scary experience for you.
Yeah.
And, I'm glad that you've reached a point where you can talk now about it, and even position it to work for you.
Yeah.
Do you have that same attitude when it comes to your work? And how do you integrate your job, music, and ministry?
There's a postgraduate slogan that we have at the institution where I work that says, what if your what if works? We are all given the same opportunities in the sense that we all are given breath. We are all given an opportunity to wake up in the morning. We are all given time, the same amount of hours in the day. What we don't all possess is the drive and the determination and the resilience to endure everything that's set out for us on our path in order to achieve what we must achieve. I spoke to a very wise man earlier this morning, and he shared something with me that he had recollected. And he said, somebody had said to him, whatever is meant for you will never miss you. And God had known that I was destined for certain things in this world. And so all he needed for me was to agree to that purpose. And so a lot of us miss our purpose because we are unwilling to go through the process. And sometimes the process looks like hardship. The process looks like a bunch of no's. The process looks like a closed door. But as long as we are willing to endure that process, because process is only the journey to purpose. Once we get to purpose, we would know that we've endured the test of times. And so we are worthy of being in the spaces that we ought to be in. And so the same grace that I give my music is the same grace I give my job. I'm so privileged to do everything in my life because I love doing it. There isn't a single thing on this earth that I do and I go, oh my word, I don't want to do this. I wake up before my alarm goes off every day because I understand that it's a privilege to walk into a university and possess the power that I do in the space that I do, because a lot of the people think he's a singer, is just a musician. I really do incredible work in the university space, and it's a privilege because a lot of other people could have done it. They chose me, and so I show up on time. No, maybe not on time. I'm late quite a few times, but I mean, I show up. I give my all. I'm invested in my job. I'm always looking for ways to find improvements and make the process work better. So that's that. Ministry, I give all of me because I understand the cost of the oil. Music, I give all of me because I understand that it's also a privilege. There are a lot of people more talented than I am. There are a lot of people more gifted than I am, but not a lot of people can say that they have the work ethic that I have. And a lot of people look at my life and they think, how on earth are you doing everything? There are a lot of the times where I've sacrificed, and I still do to this day. I mean, my mother messaged me on Monday evening and she said, Kai, can you phone me? I'm feeling very sad. And at that point, I was on my way to a conference and I couldn't call her. It is now 5 days later. I've still not been able to call my mother. So those are the type of things that I need to sort of speak to myself in the inner closet with, like, you know, is what you are doing, is the impact you are doing or making in the world worth, you know, letting go of those type of things, you know. And so I don't always have the answers. I don't always know what to do. I don't always get it right. But I know that my pursuit is always right, and the posture of my heart is always that I fulfill every space and every mandate that God has placed on my life with poise and vigor and intentionality. So yeah, it's not an easy one, but we move. We move,
indeed. Now, you know, if you look at the South African music scene right now, and if you look what's happening in the world, the internet, TikTok, social media, what do you think is the best way to pursue a music career in South Africa right now in 2025?
What if your what if works? Nobody that starts anything good is guaranteed success. What separates the success and the failure is your resilience in the pursuit of what it is that you're trying to achieve. I'd rather be tired in the pursuit of a challenge of my choosing than be tired by sulking or through sulking because I never pursued what was important for me. And so I think this is something that can be applied in any context. What if your what if works? If you don't do it, you'll never know. There's no blueprint to success. There's no timeline to success. I think it's time that as a people, we stop benchmarking our success in comparison to what other people are achieving in their time frames. Just because I'm a 30-year-old with a PhD doesn't mean you have failed because you're a 30-year-old without a PhD. It's okay. Success looks different for all of us. Success to me at this point is submitting my thesis success to you could have been waking up this morning because you're struggling with your mental health so much that you're struggling to get out of bed. And so it's important that we understand that our stories are different, but our stories are all meant to end well. And so as long as we are in pursuit of the things that matter and the things that we hold dear to our hearts, success will find you. Success must be your portion. There is no other way. We were not placed on this earth to suffer. We were placed on this earth to live a life of prosperity and abundance, and in the overflow thereof, because of what was done for us more than 2,000 years ago on one hill.
If you could pick any song, one song, and any stage, one stage that you could perform on, what would it be and where?
Oh, I would probably, I'm sad that it's not one of my own, but I would probably choose to sing My Worship by Phil Thompson. And I would want to sing it at Madison Square Garden.
Oh, wow.
I would want to sing it at Madison Square Garden.
Oh, wow.
Why do I feel like I'm going to cry? That's the song.
And it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Listen, before I let you go, Anslin, thank you so much for your time and wisdom for today, and for sharing your story. Where can listeners find you? Where can they, learn more about you, listen to your music? Spill the tea.
You can find me on all social media platforms, on Anslin Gysman on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, whatever platform you could possibly think of. My handle is @Anslin_G on all platforms. You can listen to my music and stream them on Spotify, Apple Music, and every other digital platform like YouTube. And stay tuned to the socials to see what's happening in the life of Anslin Gysman. In the academic sphere, I'm currently pursuing a Masters of Commerce, benchmarking or focusing on establishing an employee value proposition for higher education, to appoint and retain academics and young academics. So you probably see me at some conferences presenting this research, And I'm all over. At church, you'll find me at City Harvest Church every Sunday at 9 a.m. Most times I come from the airport to the church, but I show up. That's where you'll find me.
Oh my goodness. Anslin, thank you so much for your time, for your wisdom. When you're listening in on this, if you're not inspired by this podcast today, I don't know what happened, but thank you so much for your time.
Thank
Anslin.
you for having me.